with our host, Dr. Gilda Carl. Dr. Gilda, hello. What topic do we have
Hi.
today? Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I have been glued to the news story about Nancy Guthrie. I am just glued to it. I can't understand how anybody could do such an inhumane thing. The family is desperate to get back their mother. This is so horrifying. I can't help, and I've heard from all kinds of experts, and I can't help but believe that she was targeted. I saw something in print that says she's worth about $40 million, Savannah. So she makes $8 million a year. Her mother's house. Now, I was recently down in Tucson, just driving there with my friend. We were on the other side of town, and we said, "God, this place is awful." It looked dark and dingy and awful. And then you see these gorgeous photographs and videos of the most beautiful part of town. And I'm going to ask some people I know who have been down there more often than I. But she lived in a beautiful home and she had all the protections one would think. So the intruder came in, busted up the cameras, and now we're looking for her. And this is day 6 already. So, how much more can any family take? And then I keep questioning what kind of person would do such an inhumane thing? What kind of person would do that? Um,
It's terrible because I don't know. The thing is, what's the angle on this? This is just very conspiracy in certain aspects, what people are bringing out on the media side of things, and potentially the way when Savannah did the conversation on TV, it seemed a lot like Silence of the Lambs. This is what they were talking about, the way she took certain parts of this. How much is this communication with they know who the kidnapper is, but they don't want to give it press?
no, they would never do that. They need her mother back. They asked a ransom of $100 million. That's the latest figure that I just heard. So they asked for $100 million and in Bitcoin. I don't even have I don't even have a clue how that could ever work. But I understand Bitcoin is untraceable. They have called from places that are also untraceable, or they haven't called it. They sent emails from places that are untraceable. So I've been watching this, and of course I'm questioning people around me, people who have family, people who have people around them who don't give a damn. I mean, how many people would be this concerned about their family members being lost this way? I don't, I'm sure a lot, but I'm sure there are some who are not. Then we have other considerations. This woman needs her medication. The kidnappers knew this or know this. They certainly know it now. This woman needs her medication. So if something happens and she does not get her medication, then you're looking at not a kidnapping anymore. You may be looking at a homicide. This is nothing to play around with. Are these teenagers having fun? I know it's only about an hour from the Mexican border, from Tucson to the Mexican border. So they were thinking, oh, maybe cartels are involved. And then some people said, no, that's not the case. It's a person who knows this area very well. And there was so much brush that the cameras weren't working. Well, the cameras, of course, were broken, but the cameras were in other people's homes. It was very difficult to pick anything up. And a lot of the neighbors who were interviewed said that they were going to start reconsidering the kind of safety precautions they have over their own person and their own family. And this is where people came to live in peace and silence. They have a law against lights. You cannot, I know I cannot stand driving in Arizona at night. because there are no traffic lights, not unless you're on one of the big streets. I mean, it's all about the beauty of the heavens and to see the stars, etc., etc. It's a very healthy state. It's a state where people care about their health and they work out and they take care of themselves, but they also are what they want to be one with nature. So because of that, there are certain communities that I don't feel comfortable driving in. Communities right by my house because there are no lights. And they have carried this whole custom into Tucson, which is about 2 hours south of me. So, it's very frightening. Anybody goes to sleep at night, will they be captured by somebody?
Right. And
I
this
mean, what?
here's the point. So, really interesting thing when I was in Dallas, Mark Cuban was with his son, no bodyguard at all. I wonder how many public figures are now going to get bodyguards and how many are going to get them for their families now if they're a high profile figure. Literally, they were chasing Mark Cuban out of the movie theater, and he always said he never wants to do these things. But you're putting a huge risk out if you're a public figure not getting that proper security.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was in New York, I was stalked, I was followed, police had to be called in. I mean, this was not, at one point, I wasn't even a public figure. But then when I hit television, people did know who I was, and and I was followed. And I tell you, it's the scariest thing. When I did the pilot for the Dr. Gilda show, the it was 20th Century Fox. They provided a bodyguard for me, and I couldn't go anywhere, including to the bathroom, without that bodyguard accompanying me. And that was no joke. This was New York. It wasn't as crime infested as it is today, but it was still a danger. Now, companies, especially companies of entertainment personalities, will bring in bodyguards because they are protecting their property. The entertainment figure may be a father or a mother or a relative to the family that that person has, but it's the company who is protecting their property because this person has signed on the dotted line that this person is going to do this movie and that movie and that movie. And they want to guarantee that this person is kept safe. So bodyguards, even when I did my pilot, were a thing that were certainly were considered for people in the public eye. And I saw that when I did my pilot, I was just standing there greeting people as they were coming into the show to be seated. And a couple of people started to grab at me. And that's when the producer walked over to me and said, "We need you over here." And the bodyguard popped out, and that was it. Um, they don't play around. But what about John Q. Public? What about, you and I, who are not necessarily on television at the moment or are not A-list personalities? What about those people?
Mhm.
How are we to protect ourselves when in some communities where people opt for peace and quiet and darkness? I went out with a guy who said that's just what he wanted in here. He had come from New York, he came here, and he said he lives in a place that is the darkest, black, pitch black, and no lights, and this is what he longed for. This is not my desire, but don't forget, in those kind of environments, there are animals of all kinds who make their way at your front door. And sometimes those are not the kind of animals that you want to see. They're not like little puppy dogs. So I, I don't know why anybody would want to live in that desolation, but this is where people do find comfort. And this woman was entitled
Yeah.
to her peace. And how this could happen, I just don't know. It's just horrifying to me. And I've been having nightmares about this. My family. How about my kids? Their kids. I mean, how about people who are near and dear to my heart? What would happen if somebody crawled into their bedroom while they were asleep and said, "Oh, come on, let's
That's
go."
where I think we need to invest in more security. I don't know why that nothing was picked up on security cameras, but they're really good. You need to have surveillance. You have to have a lot of different uh, deters. How do they find her mom? All these things have to be asked. That means that there could have been somebody close to them that took her. Because unless she was really out in the public profile and people could find her, that's why we have to be very uh, careful with our identity and where we're located and where we're at right every day because you never know what can happen.
I want to say one more thing. Even though she is not on the side of President Donald Trump, he made a phone call to her and said, "We will give you all the federal resources you need." And hats off to him. He knows she's a Democrat and she's not on his team, but he did the real man kind of thing. And so, no matter what your politics are, you have to hand
Exactly.
it to him for that. And then the last thing that I'm thinking of is that I've been reading in the news about other women who have gone missing
Yeah.
and outrage from people on various platforms saying, how come they're not in the news? How come no resources are after them? How come this and how come that? Nobody's even publicizing this. So you're going to see a lot of that happen after this is over. People are going to start screaming. And if the other people are black people or Martian people or whatever, it's going to be an accusation of racism, that they only chose the white person to go after. In this climate, with these crazies out there, everything they see is to use the new expletive racist. So we have to get off that too. So I appeal. I think our audience is pretty grounded. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think? What do you think we all ought to do besides looking over our backs and making sure that we're safe and our loved ones are safe? But how safe can you make it for yourself? Duh.
All right. drgilda.com. Great thing to think about. Appreciate it, Dr. Gilda.
Thanks, Neil.
All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show on the Dr. Gilda